Welcome, folks. A new day with new possibilities. I have this fly that's been flying here for over 24 hours, landing on me, landing on now the Tanya. It must be from a different incarnation and it wants to study. I don't know. It just doesn't want to go away. Literally flying on the book, literally flying on me. Sounds crazy, huh? Like, what kind of food can you find on a book? I guess it's food for the soul. But a fly doesn't have a soul as we do that's going to be fed. But yet, it has no fear. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadesh in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. And we share today with June in Australia. Good night. Erica, good afternoon in Oslo. Jan is in Mexico joining us. Eugenia in Calgary. Clem in Brisbane, Australia. Louise in Sydney, Australia. Australians are amazing. Wow. Leah in Florida is with us. Bob in Morocco she's joined us. Hey, doesn't want to stay put. Okay. Denise in New Jersey, welcome back. Marcus in Santa Rosa, California. Diane in Arizona. Jane in the Philippines. Clem in, well, we mentioned Clem in Brisbane. Oops. Davida and Liba in New York, and we have David in Sacramento. Okay, it's getting crazy over here. Nishama, welcome. Simcha in Florida. John in North Carolina. Terrence in Australia. Simcha in California. I mean in Florida. Did I miss anybody? I forgot. Okay. We have, who else is joining us over here? We have Alcoy in Lima, Peru. Natalie's in Brazil. Bella, Sivia in New York. Alice in Baltimore. Carmen, Jersey, Yid. Formerly from Jersey. Beautiful. Michael in Germany. Who else do we have? Okay. Isaiah says, "Vilbash tzedakah kisiryain v'koiva Yeshua bereishay." And he, God, garbs himself with tzedakah. with charity as a coat of mail and a helmet of salvation upon his head. So, a coat of mail, the shining knight in white armor, the armor that they used to wear, a coat of mail, was as such that it was a body armor worn by European knights, medieval warriors. So it was made from fabric or leather, and sewn upon it were iron rings or plates, rings to protect the body, but yet they were rings or different, or sort of like plates in order to create movement. It wasn't just one iron piece. And that is the metaphor to understand that God garbs himself with this. Of course, this is a very mystical idea that we're going to be learning today. And upon this, our sages say that just as the chainmail, this coat, has individual scales that add up to form a large coat of mail, so it is with charity that individual coins given to charity add up to a great amount. So the teachings of the sages we need to understand is, it's kind of obvious that, if you give consistently charity, that is going to add up to a large amount. What do we need? The metaphor of the coat of mail. And what is this metaphor? This metaphor, in any case, as Isaiah uses it in a verse. So the explanation: charity is greater than all of the commandments. It produces, through the act of charity, a garment for the soul. Creates a soul garment, right? What do you need a garment for the soul? In order that the soul can withstand the intense degree of divine revelation that it will experience in Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, which means after our time in this world. And that the light is very powerful, that we don't want to, or the soul doesn't want to be nullified. So it needs a garment, the garment of charity, right, produces that. Well, as a matter of fact, any mitzvah does produce a garment for the soul. But in particular charity, and we'll see the uniqueness over here and what we're talking about. So, how do these garments come about, right, when you do a mitzvah? So, they're drawn from the infinite of God, the Ein Sof, which is called Soiviv Kol Almin, an encompassing light of God. An encompassing light that is transcendent, that we cannot experience. It's too great. It's too powerful, right? How does this come down? How is this brought about to bring down this transcendent light? Is because we arouse it down here through the fulfillment of a commandment, fulfilling God's will. God's will is encompassing, and by we fulfilling it, we bring that encompassing light here. Now, that encompassing infinite light is then evolves or garbs itself in the light that is immanent light, what's called Mamali Kol Almin, that fills the world. So that now becomes indwelling within creation, that light. Now it needs a great contraction in order to take an infinite light, and it should now be indwelling within and should be permeating the world from within. And this is the concept of a mitzvah. A mitzvah is when we do an act down here, fulfilling the will of God, we elicit this all-encompassing light that then unites together, binds together with the light that is contracted, immanent light, that is the light of the Shekhinah, the divine presence of Hashem. And this is the idea of, we say before, on page 30 in the Siddur, every day before Baruch Shamar, that we're doing now this mitzvah prayer that is creating a union between Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, the transcendence of God, and Shekhinah and the divine presence of God. By the way, that's male and female components of the divine. Right? The Shekhinah means the indwelling, the light of God that is present in a more palpable way. Right? Now, that's what we create every time we do a mitzvah. And a reflection of this encompassing light by means of the powerful contraction that it unites with the indwelling light. Again, God, the infinite of God with the divine presence of God, right? Makes a powerful contraction, a garment in the two levels of Garden of Eden, in the spiritual realm, the lower and higher level of Garden of Eden, that enables now the soul that resides there, and our soul will reside there at some point, after 120 years in this world, and there are many souls that reside there right now, and allows them to, and enables them to derive pleasure and attain some apprehension and illumination from the infinite light of God that is diffused there in Gan Eden. Now, so this is the garment that we wear, figuratively speaking, by the acts of the mitzvah that we do now for our soul, that we create that garment that allows the soul to derive that pleasure, the illumination of the divine, of the Ein Sof, right? That we could apprehend this infinite radiance. Now, this is the meaning of what our sages say, that in this world, there's no reward for the fulfillment of mitzvahs. Meaning, this world is a physical world. And it's a very limited, coarse world, extreme contraction on the divine light. Therefore, it's impossible for any reflection of the Ein Sof that should be vested in here in a manner that we should experience it as the soul does up there, figuratively speaking, in Gan Eden. Right? Now, the Ein Sof, when it becomes vested in the 10 divine attributes, as the Zohar calls them, as the body. Now, body and soul, metaphorically over here, just as the body is so much a greater contraction to create the body than the soul, they're incomparable one to the other. So likewise, the Ein Sof is incomparably greater than the 10 divine attributes, 10 spheroids that are the body. And therefore, when we speak about the attributes of God, his kindness, so we call it like the right arm, or his gvura, his severity is the left arm, because there isn't a comparison between body and soul, between the physical body and a soul. Likewise, there's no comparison between the 10 divine attributes of God and the emanation of God, the infinite of God. Right? There's no comparison. Therefore, through the practice of charity and deeds of kindness, the experience of the Ein Sof you don't have, but you bear some fruit. So the fruit you can have, in other words, a minute quantity of reward for fulfillment of commandments. You get a microscopic ray of infinite light of the Soviv, of the encompassing transcendent light of God, does descend into this world. Right? And this is the metaphor of we say that God wears a coat of mail, right? He garbs himself with a coat of mail, because in that coat, so there's 2 points to that. One is that we create a garment, right, through the mitzvah that we do, but also now this coat of mail has a gap in it, right? The shining knight in white armor picks up his arms, right? They're made from different rings that are not connected to each other in order to allow the movement. So by picking up your arm, for example, there's a gap that's created. So that's the metaphor, that God garbs himself with this coat of mail, that he allows a microscopic ray to get through. And just like, something small could get through, the coat of mail. So microscopic ray of light is the metaphor that gets through, right? Not the full experience. Full experience we can't have. We have some experience as the soul in the Garden of Eden. But that encompassing light, the infinite light of God that does come into this world, right, through those gaps, it comes here, excuse me, and what does it result in? As we said, that it's coming through the divine attributes of God, which the divine attributes is like the body versus the soul, right? The infinite versus the finite. And therefore, what's coming is through that as a result is kindness with the right arm, which results, God's kindness will result in longevity in this physical world. And the left arm, which is world, will result in wealth and honor. And likewise for the other attributes also, beauty emanates from the sphere of Tiferes, majesty, Hod, splendor is Hadar, and gladness, Chedva, right? So in other words, something is coming, but a microscopic ray of the light, of divine light, that this is what we will get from the mitzvah that we do, and in particular, charity is what we're talking about over here, right? In general, a mitzvah creates the union, right? But here specifically, it's that limited microscopic ray of light that's coming from that union of the divine, of the male and female, that brings these human qualities into this world. But as a result of that, there could, since it's a human quality of, long life, of wealth and honor, all that could be corrupted. So in order to prevent the forces of evil from drawing from above, in other words, there's an energy, spiritual energy that has descended through this act of the mitzvah of charity that brings long life, that brings wealth and honor. It's possible now that the negative side, klipa and sitra achar, could be nurtured by this. Right? So a person needs to be shielded by this. In other words, the soul what it's going to experience in Gan Eden, there's nothing negative that could be no negativity, no klipa could be nurturing from that experience. But here in our charity that we give, that we elicit that light, create that union, bring that light from above, that we get a microscopic ray of light of God that results in long life and wealth and honor, well, those things might not be used out in the appropriate manner. So in order to shield ourselves, that we should be guarded from all spiritual and material harm, because money can harm you. It harms a lot of people, right? So this encompassing light is reflected back, figuratively speaking, to fill the breach. Because remember, you picked up your arm. You gave charity. By picking up your arm, giving charity, you created a gap in the coat of mail. And that gap now allows a microscopic ray of the infinite of God to come down and result in longevity, wealth, and honor in this world. But that gap now, some negativity could be nurtured, right? An arrow could get through that coat now, maybe. So God fills it, right, by the encompassing light. When it shines down into the world through the chink, produced by a person's charitable deeds, is now reflected back in order to fill the very same breach, to deprive the forces of evil to have any possible nurture via the same venue, the same avenue through that breach. Wow. For this encompassing light, being that it's infinite, it's encompassing, so it encompasses both the holy and the unholy, and therefore there could be a breach in the unholy. The klipa could get negativity. Now, this is why tzedakah, producing the gaps and its own protective scales, is likened to a coat of mail. And moreover, just as the chain of mail has individual scales that add up to form a large coat of mail, so is charity. All individual coins add up to a great amount. The word great is used over here. Great, because it's in the spirit of the verse, it says, Gadol Havaya, great is Havaya, the encompassing light of God, and exceedingly glorified without end. Meaning, the name Havaya, actually in this reference over here, is the Yud for Chochmah, Hey for Bina in God's name, Vav for the 6 divine attributes, the final Hey for Malchus. In other words, it's an encompassing of the 10 divine attributes that through the act of being charitable, you're drawing that down into this world each time, bringing that light of Shem Havaya, the great name of Havaya, and bringing the fruit of the labor which is not the principle. The principle you don't get, not now, right? Because that's a reward. The principal reward you don't get. You only get a fruit of the reward. It's a microscopic ray that through the act of tzedakah. So that is today's very mystical teachings. Let's put it into maybe some other words. Being charitable is amazing. It's like greatest commandment, especially now before Tisha B'Av. These days, it's even more important. But charity, as every mitzvah creates a union above between male and female, between the infinite and indwelling of the divine, creates that union. Through that union means a new light that's brought. A new light that's brought for the soul in Gan Eden, because you created a garment that you can now have the protective garment to experience the intense divine light that is in the Garden of Eden. But also it creates a garment that God garbs himself with in order to, that coat of mail that through the chink that can come into this world from the infinite of God, a microscopic ray by way of the 10 divine attributes, because there's a union between the Ein Sof, the emanator, and emanation of God, which is the 10 divine attributes. And therefore, through that union, you're bringing into this world that microscopic ray that doesn't result in an experience with being connected to the divine as the soul has in Gan Eden, but it brings, human things like long life and wealth and honor. That's what it brings. Which is a very powerful idea. Okay. Any questions, any comments? Vida. Neshama has a question. Oh, Neshama has a question. Okay. This is a garment Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava had once in Gan Eden. Yes. Yes, they had a garment that allowed them to experience, the divine there. Yes, Neshama. Yep, very good. Erica, if someone is a billionaire or something like that and gives a lot of charity, does that mean that they don't have to study Torah? One mitzvah is one mitzvah, and another mitzvah is another mitzvah. We have 248 limbs and organs of the body, and if we just pump up one organ, exercise one organ, one muscle, one limb, that's not going to be sufficient, right? That's not going to be good enough. You have to exercise all of them to be a healthy body. So likewise, if you want to be a healthy person, we need all mitzvahs. So maybe your unique path will be charity, right? But we still have to study Torah. Yep. All right. Any other? Thank you. Excellent question, Erica. Do the tzaddiks have different garments than Beinoni in training? No. It's the garment. It's it's God's is creating that. Okay. Okay, let me see. Any questions on Instagram? I don't see. Okay. Please share with us.
Hey, Rabbi Ronnie. Sorry, I'm late to your Torah study, but
Not a problem.
you know, Knights, like the Arthurian legend. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. I think it came out maybe in the 80s or 90s. Just a tremendous movie. Knighthood. I was in this bookshop and I saw a book called A Coat of Jewish Arms, meaning that like it was Jewish symbols or the family crest. So there's a whole historical legacy of Jewish family crests. I was shocked. I didn't know that. But my point is, I wasn't bar mitzvahed, but I feel like a bar mitzvah is essentially a knighthood. You become like a legal scholar essentially at 13.
I don't know if you become a legal scholar, or now you could become a legal scholar.
Well, what I'm saying is, if times are really tough, and like you're on the run, you're in war, and you have children, and you need to raise your children, and basically you're not wasting time. You're like constantly trying to educate for survival, I assume. So in that regards, if you actually raise somebody up correctly, they should technically know the law inside and out by 13. I'm not bar mitzvah, but like I would imagine, that's
Right.
the extreme end of a horrible situation. So,
Right.
but my point is, if you get knighted, it's kind of like the samurai. You walk with kind of a hidden knowledge, and that's why
Right.
I think Torah is like that. So,
Yeah.
and Tanya is like that. Tanya is like a samurai sword, and basically it's a knighthood. It gives you a perspective, a frame shift, psychological understanding that I didn't know. Chabad doesn't stand at the street corners and pass out Tanya. If they did, I would have figured out a lot of things a lot sooner. But Chabad doesn't promote Tanya. I've never heard of Chabadnik even say the word Tanya or even talk about the book. So to me, it's an amazing psychological treatise, and I thank you for promoting it.
God bless you. Thank you. Yes. So it ends up that we all are a knight in white armor because I'm sure we all give charity, tzedakah, and therefore, by the act of giving tzedakah, as we mentioned, as we learned, that creates a garment that our soul can experience the intensity of divine light in Gan Eden, and that it brings down into this world the act of giving. It brings wealth, it brings honor, it brings longevity of life. So I just want to touch upon that for a moment. The human condition is that we're takers. We want to take. When a baby is born into this world, it cries. It's not crying because there's some child down the block that is hungry. It's crying because the baby is hungry, or whatever other reason it's crying for. But it's crying for its own sake, for its own needs. Now, obviously, we don't look at that in any negative way, but that's the point I want to make, is that the human condition is that we take. The child is just a complete taker. It nurses from the mother. It's held by parents. It's a rock to sleep, and nurtured and everything. And of course, that's the way it's supposed to be. We have to be weaned off being takers in order to become givers. That's not an easy thing. It's still in the psyche and the makeup of everyone to take from a circumstance, to take from an event, right? We look for an experience. An experience means I'm taking from that experience. Am I giving to that experience? That's not our primary thought or concern, right? Our primary thought is, what can I have from this? What gain do I have from this person and the relationship I have with them? So, that's the nature of things. Tzedakah means I'm a giver. I'm a giver, irrespective of the return. It's not about the return. As a matter of fact, as we said, that there is no reward. And it's interesting when our sages say there is no reward for the fulfillment of mitzvahs in this world. The reward here actually doesn't mean a reward as we might think in a material way, but reward means in spirit, the experience of the divine. That's a reward. Well, in Gan Eden we get that. What we do get, though, is the fruit, not the principle. The reward has the principle reward. We don't get that. That's not even Gan Eden, by the way. Gan Eden, you're not even getting the principle. The principle of the reward will be the times of Mashiach. But we do get the fruit, which is a microscopic ray of light of the infinite of God that results and expresses itself in longevity of life, in honor and what was the other?
Rabbi, can I ask you a question?
No, let me just give me a moment to just finish this thought. Absolutely. Sorry, and wealth. Yes, honor and wealth. Right. So, and all of that is the fruit that it bears, a minimal fruit that it bears, even though that's formidable and wonderful, of course. But the point though is we do get something back, but when we get something back, first of all, that's not the intent of why we're doing it. We're doing it for the connection. We're doing it in order to create a union between the male and female of the transcendence of God and the immanence of God, the Shekhinah, the divine dwelling and presence of God, to create that union that brings now new light, produces new light to bring into this world. That is the intent. And therefore, even in the act of giving that we get, what we're doing is we're giving more divinity in this world through that act. The byproduct is what we're talking about over here, and it's a byproduct of the, again, longevity and wealth and honor. Yes, my friend, go ahead.
I was going to say, the Zadikim or the Zadi,
Tzaddik,
like
the righteous?
The Zad, the righteous. So, I mean, Mashiach is a Zadi.
Right.
So, when you make Zadacha, I've heard it can make adjustments, heavenly decreed type adjustments. So, but also, personally, psychologically, it kind of puts you in it frame shifts you when you make Zadacha to a rabbi and to the congregation. You're giving a part of yourself. I heard somebody say that the word blood and money have the same Hebrew root. But anyways, I was just wondering, I also have read that Zadik or Zadik or the Zadikim, I've heard it also means Caesar, even like the translation, sort of.
What?
It kind of goes to that word Kaiser or Caesar, which is like a star.
Never heard that.
Something like that. Anyways, but I've made Zadacha, and it definitely made some type of a soul correction. It was an interesting experience that when I gave the money to the rabbi, just wanted to make a donation to the Chabad,
Beautiful.
Or to him or the organization, wherever it went.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. All right, folks, we're going to continue on this thought tomorrow. Thursday is Tisha B'Av, so we can't do formal learning in the regular learning during the day. So Thursday, the class will be something like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when we'll do Tanya, we'll do Chumash Rashi, and so on Thursday. But tomorrow will be regular time. All right. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad Zuchin Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing, wonderful day.
Thanks, Rabbi Ronnie.
God bless you. Thank you. Rambam coming up.